It is official, MPC3 is here, but still in beta mode and not officially out to the public just yet. If you want access to the beta version, there will be a sign up link below that you can go check out. But I'm gonna give my first impressions of the MP3 software because I've had it for a couple days now on this Key 37. I've only loaded on the Key 37. I haven't loaded on any other device yet because it's technically a beta. As we all know, you gotta be careful about that stuff in production environments. But I'm very excited to talk about this because it is a paradigm shift for the MPC platform. As you can see, redesigned homepage. If I tap on this, there's a whole different section. Effects, send, IO. The effects can now be reordered as well. By the way, everything that you've purchased in the past for the MPC platform that is in your MPC hardware right now will work with MPC3. That goes for stems, that goes for plugins. Also, if you own an MPC1, X, XSE, Key 61, 37, MPC1 Plus, etc., all of them work with modern MPCs and it will be a free update. So there will be no charge to go from MPC2 to MPC3 in the hardware. But yeah, there's some big changes here, some workflow ideology changes, and it's definitely moving more towards a DAW experience. In the past, I've kind of said, yeah, it's like a DAW, but it's kind of its own thing. Now it's moving a bit closer towards that arranger mode and seeing things visually. Now, I'm not gonna be able to cover every single detail in this video, so this is definitely gonna be a first impressions, and I will do future videos. So if you're curious about that, subscribe. Also, if you like the content that I make on this channel and you wanna support it beyond a like and subscribe, consider using my affiliate links below for anything that you wanna pick up gear-wise, whether it's an MPC or a synth, that type of thing. So obviously a big difference, this whole homepage looks different, and the way that tracks fit inside sequences is a bit different now. In MPC2, you'd have a sequence, and then the sequence would have tracks, and the tracks would be attached to things like drum groups, key groups, plugins, MIDI programs, etc. Now tracks and whatever they're attached to are permanent. You can't break that connection. So for instance, if I go new track on here, you'll see audio track, drum, plugin, key group, MIDI, and CV. And yes, audio tracks are officially combined together. There is no more audio page, as you can see on here. It's new track, sequence, record arm. This was a big criticism of mine. The audio tracks were like this separate, cobbled together side of the MPC that just didn't really make sense from a workflow perspective. Now they're officially baked into the tracks. In fact, it always comes preloaded right now with the secondary audio track, and that audio track shows up in the track mutes as well, so you can mute that stuff. There's some changes to the track mute, and we'll get to that in a bit. So big news right there, audio tracks are now officially a part of this whole track sequencer type of ecosystem. Another huge improvement is disk streaming is officially available for audio tracks. And if you go to audio export side of things in the preferences, you'll see enable disk streaming. And it works fantastic from what I've seen so far. Anything that should be connected via like an audio track like that loads up immediately. And that's off the SD card off this MPC Key 37. So I'd imagine it could load faster with SSD drives, but just with the basic Key 37 SD card, the load times are basically non-existent for large audio files. So that's huge, having disk streaming on there and also having the files just pull up right away. That also means that you could record some really long audio files and not have to worry about the memory limits of, say, the 2 gig version. So we have a drum group right here. There's now an official record direct to pad type of option within this, which is really cool. So if I hit record and I have pad tap on here, so if I go like that, it's starting to record. I hit stop. Then if I go over, you will see it's right there. And also this visual experience shows what you're playing. So I'm gonna load up a drum kit that I use quite a bit. And as you can see, it shows up right here. The slices. I think that's really cool. If we go over to expansions, I'll grab something from my syntactical expressions kit. Grab the UR here kit. This is on my website, by the way, if you want to check out this kit. So you can see all the samples pull up right here. Now, something that's interesting here is I loaded up 2 kits, but you'll see that the last one that I loaded is available on here. It didn't actually create another track. So this is one of these ideology things that has changed and shifted from the MPC2 side of things. In the past, you load up this kit, and then this kit could be kind of referenced for multiple different tracks. That is not the case anymore. So let's say you want to lay down a kick and snare for this. Let's go 145 in the tempo. So traditionally, a lot of people just overdub directly on top of this, like this. You know, something like that. Or what you could do is create another track that would reference the same drum group. Well, if you do that now, so you have this button right here that will duplicate this track, but now it's duplicating the kit as well. So now if you look at the playback on here, this is not doing anything. But if I go back to the previous track, you'll see this has got the kick and snare in there. So you might want to compress these two together, right? So now what you're gonna have to do is utilize these submixes a lot more often. So let's go submix 1 and then go back to the original kit right here. Let's go submix 1 on this as well. Now this is a big change. If I scroll through these tracks, suddenly it's submix. Submix 1, 2, all the way up to 8. And then the returns are here as well, along with the outputs. This is a big change from the way things have been in the past. Honestly, it's a better change. And I think some people that are really used to the original way are going to get thrown off a bit initially. But I do think this is a faster way of working with the way the tracks are set up, because it just makes sense that you'd have everything available to scroll through on these tracks. So if I go to submix 1 right here, I can then add effects directly to this. So let's say I want to also do the clipper here. Drop the post level down. And then throw a little Air Flavor Pro on there. Vintage drums, drum on vinyl. Take off some of that top end a bit. Get rid of some of them noise. So we got a little thing going on right here. Turn down the mix a little bit. I'm gonna go new track. I'm gonna say drum program. And then once again, I'm gonna go load. I'm gonna load up that other kit that I was looking at. Yeah, I'm gonna put some hats in with this. I'm gonna take down the original hats a bit. Now, I could actually just send this other kit to submix 1, which is pretty cool. So that's a bit of a change. The other thing too with this window is the arrange view right here. So traditionally you'd step over the grid on the side right here. I actually set up these hotkeys the way I want them. So if you go over to menu, you can actually reorganize everything now in this and reorganize stuff that goes on the side. Like for instance, if I go over to the next window, I go MIDI control and hold this and then drag it. Suddenly you can just reorganize everything that you want. So I actually put the grid view and the arrange right there. But if you want to actually adjust some of this stuff, like my original kick and snare, you go over to the arrangement side and then you double tap and then it opens that up on your MPC. So again, a little bit different. Nothing crazy right there, but just kind of workflow differences at the moment. Plugins still pretty much work the way they do, and you still only have access to 8. If I go sounds, say mini D, bass, mini thump. Good old mini thump. Let's record something. Throw a soft clipper on there as well. So same thing, go on arrangement, double click on this, you can see it right there. Now, if I click on the arrange window right here, you start to see everything show up on the sequence or the arrangement essentially. And this is where these two paradigms start converging, because you can now actually treat this like a regular linear arranger. Very different for the MPC workflow. And again, it's something that I know a lot of people may not necessarily like. So usual suspects, you can go to the bars, you can increase this, then you could pinch this out and see how things are looking. Now you'll notice these are not looping right here. You can actually expand these as well. And by the way, when it's audio, it shows audio as well. And I'll show you that in a bit. But as you can see, these have not officially looped beyond the 4 bars. For instance, if I play bar 5, nothing's happening right there, right? So what I have to do is set up the length, which is basically the loop length for the particular track. And if you look at this, you'll see the length and sequence. So right now this bass plugin is set to length sequence, and the sequence is currently 23 bars, as you can see right there. By the way, this can go up to like, I think 10,000 now. Before it could only go up to 999. I believe. So I believe that they expanded that to 10,000 bars. If you need that many. It's a lot of bars. If I tap sequence, you'll see it defaults to the length of the sequence. But if I scroll this all the way to 4, now it's 4 bars. And keen eye people will notice that you now have an adjustment for bars instead of beats. Because on the MPC2, you have to adjust it by beats. So you have to do math every time you want to like make it however many bars. Like if you want to do 16 bars, you'd be like, all right, 16 times 4, 64 beats. So then you roll it to 64 beats. Now you can actually just do it based on the bars. And if you want to do individual beat size as well, you could be like 4 bars, 2 beats. You can do that on here now very quickly. Now, if I go to the arrange window, you'll see these little dashes right here. And if I hit play where it's at on bar 6, you'll hear the bass. So now it's officially looping throughout that. I'm going to quickly adjust this over here as well to 4 bars. Cool. I adjusted everything. Now if I go to the range window, you'll see these little dashes happen. If I hit play, you'll hear the loops are happening. Now it's set up to loop too. So if I take off this loop, the sequence will just play and then end after it hits 23 measures. So again, you could treat it like a regular linear sequencer at that point. And speaking of, let's talk about audio tracks and show how that process basically would work as you would think. So I have audio track 2 right here. By the way, if you want to rename this stuff, you hold this and it pops up this track setting that you can, adjust the name. There's a few other things too. You can also adjust position of the track. I know it's silly to get excited about it, something like that, but technically that's an improvement. We haven't been able to do that before in MPC2. Now there's a convenient way to start shuttling the tracks around. And this is also where you would actually delete a track too. So if you didn't want audio track right here, you could hold this, hold it, and then hit the delete track or reset the channel strip, which is nice. And also, if I didn't mention it, you can now rearrange the channel strip stuff. If you hold an effect, it turns it on and off. Forgot about that. So if you hit the pop-out window right here, then you have these arrows to shift things up and down. Again, if you're new to MPC, kind of silly that that wasn't in there in the first place, but now it's officially coming in MPC3. So I want to record something here, but I'm going to use the Iridium, which is off to my side, an external synthesizer. So first thing is I'm going to make a new MIDI track. So track 6 is officially a MIDI track. And I'm going to send it out to the regular MIDI port. Now, for this to work, I'm going to turn the monitoring on. So no matter what page I'm looking at, this MIDI track will always be listening to MIDI and then sending it as well. So nice little trick right there if you want to just work with one synthesizer and always listen to it. Now, with audio track 001-1, why is it called -1? Did I accidentally do that? I must have called it -1. I'm going to go to monitoring. I'm going to turn this on. I do have the left-right outputs of the Iridium going directly into the inputs of the MPC Key 37, so I already know that that's happening. So if I hit some keys, you're hearing a patch from the Iridium. Now, what do we want? It's kind of a drone-ish. I mean, this kind of works. Now, if I hit record and start recording, it's going to record this until basically the length of the sequence, which is 23 bars. Which actually, I'm going to bump up this sequence to like 50 just in case. Let's record. That 24 bars will then start repeating it. So I'm actually going to hit length on here and adjust this all the way down to 24 bars. So it'll loop at that. Now, if I double tap the audio window, it's actually going to take me to this grid window to edit the audio right here. But if I go to arrange, you will see that the arrange looks like so with an audio track, which I think that's pretty cool actually. So then, if I go to say bar 10, beat 1, oh, it's not playing right now because I still have monitoring on. If I turn monitor to off and then hit play, now it's playing exactly where that was. That's pretty cool. I am going to throw Air Delay Pro on there. Because that's always fun. Now this should start repeating. Yeah. So at bar 25, audio track 001-1 is officially repeating. We need to call this something. I think we'll call it drone. Drone-ish. That's what we're calling it. Let's get something else. Let's go new track. Let's go audio track. And then same thing, we're gonna go monitor in. Let's find some other patch. Maybe something like this? Yeah, maybe some like pulsey, stabby type of stuff with this. Could actually just do that. Put this down to 8 bars. Take off the monitor. Solo this. Let's effect this up. Air Flavor Pro. Scoop out that low end, bring the little top end. Get that width up a bit. Take off the clicks and pops, don't like those. I always like a little digital distortion with this. Just a little bit. A little grain in there. That's pretty cool. Little caveat that I've found with the track mute. So if you are used to using the track mutes to mute MIDI for your drum groups or things like sampled keys and stuff, they changed the way this works. And I don't know if there's gonna be a way to change it back or if they are gonna change it back at some point or give you the option to. But essentially things like plugins, drum groups, key groups, when you mute them, it cuts the audio. So it acts as if it's like a mixer mute as opposed to muting the actual MIDI. Which I think muting the MIDI is more useful, personally. Now, obviously, if you have a MIDI track in here, it mutes the MIDI. So that kind of solves that situation right there if you were to just send MIDI to that drum group. But it's a little strange you have to jump through a few more hoops to make that happen when it was already that way to begin with in the MPC2 version. Maybe this is because they added audio tracks into the main track side of things. Maybe. I have no idea, honestly. But for instance, if I'm playing this and then I mute the bass, cuts it immediately as if I muted the track. And then I bring it back. You know? Personally, I don't think that's as useful as being able to just mute the MIDI, like I said. So if you have these long reverb type of things baked into certain samples or like plugins that are producing a bunch of reverb or delay tails, those are gonna get muted if they're inside the actual drum group or the key group or the actual plugins you're using. Those will get muted. Again, the workaround is you have to actually make a separate MIDI track like this, new MIDI track. And then inside this MIDI track, you actually can't do it right here, which is a little strange. You have to open up the new XL channel strip here. You go IO, and then you hit send to right here. Now in send to, if I go to say plugin, I'm playing the bass instrument. Now if I were to mute this track while I'm playing, the note still rings out, as you can hear. See, you hear the tail of the note? I'm playing, comes back in, the ring out. If you do that with the actual plugin, cuts the audio completely. No ring out. So that little change right there could either be a whatever, don't care, or it could be a massive workflow change, depending on how you do things. But man, there is quite a bit of things that they added with this, and I will not be able to get to all of them. But some other stuff, if you look at this, there's some dots right here, and those dots are layers. And if you look, there is actually 8 layers. So if I hit edit and go to samples right here, you have 8 layers now instead of 4 layers. A lot more flexibility for your sample options and things that you can do. Because again, with layer play, you can go cycle. So you can technically have a drum hit and have it cycle through 8 different versions of that drum hit. So like I said, I won't be able to get to everything in this video, but I'm gonna leave you with one more exciting major change. And that is the whole Q-Link macro type of programming that you can do. So if you hold the Q-Link button and you go Q-Link edit, you then have the Q-Link option screen right here. It's currently on screen, which means that the Q-Links operate whatever screen you have selected. If you scroll this to project or project 2, you then have options to do macro Q-Link adjustments. And this is powerful. Let me explain. So there's a whole learn section right here, and it can add individual parameters, and it can also add range, toggle, trigger, all kinds of stuff like that. And I have not seen the limit yet. I'm sure there's gonna be some limit to it, but I believe I've added like 10 different targets and it still worked for a Q-Link, which is massive. Also, it saves with your project, which again, I know the previous Q-Link system had some issues, even though it was very useful, it had issues, but this is definitely a game changer. So for instance, I will go into edit mode of the MIDI right here. I will go to modifiers. I will select the cutoff and we need to put this into learn mode. So let's go Q-Link edit, learn, and it's going to learn the range as well. So back to edit. So I have this selected. I'm gonna make sure this Q-Link is selected, and then I'm gonna adjust the cutoff here. Okay, like so. So for instance, let's say maybe right there, all the way down to here. So if I go over to the Q-Link page, you'll see plugin 001, MIDI cutoff, and you'll see the range shown right here. You can also flip the range as well. Now let's keep learning, okay? So for instance, let's go to Airsoft Clipper. We're gonna adjust this now. And as you can see, it automatically learns. And maybe let's adjust the post level as well. So it's adjusting the cutoff and the soft clipper at the same time. And that's just one track. It does not have to stop with just one track though. We can adjust other things. Like for instance, let's go to the submix where we have Air Flavor Pro and the soft clipper. Let's go Air Flavor Pro. I just flipped the digital on, it learned that, but I don't want that. So I'm gonna go to Q-Link edit. And, it also adjusted volume. I don't want volumes on here, so I'm gonna get rid of those. But I'm gonna get rid of this submix. I'm gonna get rid of the submix Air Flavor Pro digital on, but I want this on. We'll turn this up. So now with this one macro, I'm controlling a plugin, Airsoft Clipper on the plugin, and then I'm also controlling the Submix Air Flavor Pro for the drums. And I can get stuff like this. And it will save to the project too. I think that's pretty powerful. And I mean, it doesn't stop with just this stuff. You could obviously go into MIDI CC information. I mean, I'm planning on doing a whole video on this stuff, but that is extremely powerful. That's also 2 pages worth. You can have project 1, which has some predefined type of stuff, which I'd probably get rid of. And then project 2, which I started mapping out some stuff, and you can have obviously the 16 Q-Links. And I mean, you only have so many hands, obviously, so it makes sense that like you'd map a bunch of things in just a couple macros. But that is so powerful for the MPC platform. It's obviously very close to things you can do in Ableton with like the project racks to control a bunch of different things. But now with the MPC side of things, you can basically have global macro controls over basically your entire mix and plugins and MIDI CC type of stuff. I'm actually still trying to process everything that I can do with this because yeah, and there's momentary type of stuff, like you can have it all reset back to minimum or go to the previous to where you were with this type of setting to turn that on. So a lot of control here, a lot of potential and possibilities. And as you can see, it's super easy with the learn method. You know, you just go Q-Link edit, you want to learn, and then back to main. And then anything you start adjusting, like if I go to the soft clipper on the drums and I start adjusting this up, suddenly that is learned now. Let's go back to Q-Link, turn off learn. As you can see, Submix 1, Airsoft Clipper. So now the drums are gonna get spicy. That's tight. Yeah. Anyways, MPC3, very exciting. Obviously, it's not out just yet, but if you want access to the beta, make sure to check out the link below and get access to that. Again, it's going to be out within a few weeks. No exact timeline. You know how Akai is. They'll say it's coming out soon and then might take a little bit longer. And obviously it's still in beta mode. Now I'm sure there's going to be bugs. And as a professional user, I wouldn't necessarily load up beta software on something that you need to finish or perform productions with. So keep that in mind, obviously. And that's also the reason why I've only loaded up on the MPC Key 37 so far. All my other MPCs do not have the beta software just yet. But yeah, very exciting times. If you're an MPC user, might not be for everyone with the way the changes are, but I'm definitely excited to dig in more. I'm still learning quite a bit as well, because there's a lot of things that have changed and there's a lot of things that might be similar but slightly different with the way they work. But yeah, if you enjoyed this content, a like and subscribe goes a long way. And if you're planning on picking up an MPC, a synthesizer, or any music production gear, if you use my affiliate links below, then it directly supports what I do here on the channel, and I appreciate that. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more content on the MPC. Peace.